Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with some more updates coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and it looks like we're going to be talking about Russia throughout the duration of this video, as Russia has come under a massive drone attack just last night, and this is being reported as the largest attack from Ukraine to date. And we hear that more than 140 Ukrainian drones targeted Russia, primarily Moscow. Lots of reports and video footage coming out from Moscow showing multiple buildings being struck, airports being attacked. Moscow even had to ground all their flights for several hours as there was a major drone attack happening for a number of hours, starting from late in the night all the way into the morning just last night. So definitely a major attack inside of Moscow that we're going to be talking about today. I've also got some information that Ukraine may have been targeting a storage facility or weapons facility inside of Russia that could be storing the Iranian-made FAT-360 ballistic missile systems. Now, we've been talking a lot about that, and I've got some updates today in regards to that as well, that Iran's been sending these ballistic missile systems over to Russia over the past couple weeks. So this could also be what Ukraine was targeting also inside of Russia, so we will discuss that. And also a very big update coming out from Ukraine today. We heard some news from Anthony Blinken. Anthony Blinken coming out and saying he's the U.S. Secretary of State. He was in a interview recently stating that he's going to be heading to Britain, actually, to speak with the Prime Minister about allowing Ukraine to launch long-range strikes inside of Russia. Now, I had a very big feeling that this was going to be the trigger for this, and it all has to do with these ballistic missiles coming from Iran going to Russia. Most likely, we are probably going to see Ukraine very soon being able to strike these ballistic missile systems, as I'm sure these will be very devastating once Russia starts being able to use these. And what's being reported is Russia may start using them in the next few weeks. Okay, so I would not be surprised over the next week or so we hear that all of a sudden Ukraine can now use ATACMS to go after these ballistic missile launchers and also potentially the airfields inside of Russia. This war is about to explode in the next couple weeks. So we're going to talk more about this today. This video footage that you're watching here on the screen is a Russian glide bomb dropping inside of Ukraine, destroying some sort of warehouse or storage facility here that we can see. And I put this up for you guys to show you how devastating these glide bombs are. And this is exactly why Volodymyr Zelensky wants to go after the airfields, as the fighter bombers coming from the airfields not too far away from Ukrainian territory are launching these glide bombs all over Ukraine. You can see how massive the damage is when these things go off. So this is another reason why Ukraine wants to conduct long-range strikes inside of Russia. So first, we're going to start out on mainstream news today. I just got a couple paragraphs from this article to go over here. We've got reports of a woman unfortunately losing her life inside near Moscow. This is on AP. It says a woman is killed near Moscow after more than 140 Ukrainian drones target Russia, officials say. Here's a picture of one of those buildings that were damaged heavily. I'm not sure if this is the building where the woman lost her life, but definitely we had several buildings being struck and catching on fire, okay? And most likely what's being reported is probably the electronic weapons that were trying to take down these drones were making them malfunction and crash into buildings. As from what I understand, one of the primary targets in Moscow and near Moscow were international airports, okay? Apparently there's 3 of them that were targeted. So it says here over 140 Ukrainian drones targeted multiple Russian regions overnight, including Moscow and surrounding areas, killing at least 1 person and injuring 8, officials said Tuesday. In one of the biggest drone attacks on Russian soil in the 2.5-year war, a woman died in the town of Ramenskoye, just outside of Moscow, where drones hit 2 multi-story residential buildings and started fires. Moscow Region Governor Andrei Vorobyov said 5 residential buildings were evacuated due to falling drone debris. Vorobyov said the attack also prompted the authorities to shut 3 airports just outside Moscow: Vunkovo, Domodevdovo, that's a hard one to say, and Zhukovsky, forcing 48 flights to be diverted to other airports, according to Russia's Civil Aviation Authority, Viatsia. Man, these are tough to say today, guys. So yeah, it looks like airports were being shut down as well, and massive disruption to Russia's airline industry. So we're now going to jump over to X. Let me get this set up for you guys, and we're going to discuss this today, as we've got lots of video footage coming out showing that many attacks are taking place inside of Moscow. So let's head over to X now, and we got this report from Noel Reports. There are reports of lots of Ukrainian drone activity deep into the Russian rear, including the regions of Smolensk, Oryol, Lipetsk, Kaluga, Tula, and Moscow. Okay, so many of these regions are close to each other. They're all like kind of surrounding Moscow and kind of to the west of Moscow. So it looks like mainly the northwest portion of Russia was primarily targeted with these drones, which is kind of where Moscow is located. And that's what was being reported here from Noel Reports yesterday, close to 3 p.m. Okay, so it started right around 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where I'm at, and it led all the way into the nighttime when many of us were just starting to go to sleep. That's when Moscow was coming under attack. Okay, so that was from Noel Reports yesterday. And we've got this video here from Igor Sushko. Russia, some Ukrainian drones flying toward Zhukovsky Airport in Moscow struck residential high-rises, likely due to electronic jamming. Russia should withdraw from Ukraine. Okay, so we've got a 29-second video of what appears to be a drone crashing into a residential high-rise building inside of Moscow. Take a look.
Высоковольтная. Дом рядом.
Okay, so this appears to be that video footage of the picture that I have on the thumbnail for you guys, and also that picture that we saw on that AP News report. We can see this drone crashing into this building, and when we zoom in, it looks like the same color, that kind of blue and yellowish. So it looks like that same building. We can see massive damage here from that drone striking that building. And something that I wanted to note here is just, I think yesterday or the day before, I reported to you guys from Denis Smile. I believe he's the Prime Minister of Ukraine. He came out reporting that that basically Ukraine was going to start coming under attack with their energy facilities again. This is probably why, okay? They were expecting to launch a major attack onto Moscow. We're going to see a major response probably tonight. I would not be surprised coming from Russia striking inside of Ukraine. They're probably going to have hammer their energy facilities and destroy them once again. And, you know, typically we see that from Russia. Russia usually responds soon after. And what Ukraine is trying to do here is put maximum pressure on Vladimir Putin and also the population of Russia, so maybe they can kind of start to turn on Vladimir Putin and try to force this war to end. Okay, so just imagine these are just drones doing this. Wait till Ukraine is starting is able to start using ATACMS missiles, British Storm Shadow missiles, Scout missiles, their own ballistic missiles that they're producing, the Palanitsia drones. I mean, we're going to see some major attacks inside Russia at some point. Lots of people are unfortunately probably going to lose their lives in these attacks. But this is what Volodymyr Zelensky believes he needs to do, is put maximum pressure on Vladimir Putin and also the population of Russia so they can put pressure on Putin to end this war, okay? So we're going to be definitely seeing a lot more of this as we move forward. Also from Maria Avdiva, Vnukovo, Domo Dedovo, and Zhukovsky airports in Moscow halted flights after 100-plus drones flew 800 kilometers deep into Russia. Russia seems far more invested in daily bombings of Ukrainian cities than its own air defense. So something that I noted yesterday too, real quick before we watch this drone crash into something, is remember I told you guys just yesterday that drones are just extremely powerful. Okay, they may not have a massive explosive damage, but they evade a lot of air defense. And we see this in Russia. We see this in Israel as well, when Israel comes under attack by drones. So these drones are definitely very effective. They may not cause massive amounts of damage, but they are very effective at evading air defenses, and that's kind of what she was talking about. So take a look at this. Okay, so I'm not sure what the target here is. We really can't tell because there's like a tree blocking, but definitely something got hit here in the background, most likely near Moscow as well. But we know multiple regions were targeted, so it might have not been the Moscow region. It could have been another region nearby. So let's move to our next update now. We've got 4 videos here from the informant. It says a fire was reported in a high-rise building in Remensky, Moscow region after a Ukrainian drone crashed. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin reported that 9 drones destined for the city were shot down in several locations, including Lyubertsy, Ramensky, Podolsk, and Domodedovo. In Ramensky district, 2 drones were shot down by air defense and emergency teams are at the scene. Drone fragments also fell in the Trinity district with no reports of casualties so far. Okay, so we've got 4 videos to take a look at here, so let's go ahead and start with the first one.
Где-то летит.
Вот он. Нифига себе.
Бля, опять, ёб твою мать.
Okay, so we can clearly see from this video a drone smashing into some high-rise building over here again. This looks to me like it's a different building than what was being reported before, and from what I understand, at least 2 or 3 buildings, maybe more, have been struck inside of Russia. So we've got one more video to take a look at here next, so let's go look at this next one.
Высоковольтная. Дом рядом. Ёб твой. Господи помилуй, а.
Okay, so this video might possibly be that same building that we saw getting smashed earlier, that kind of bluish and yellow one. Maybe this was another person nearby, adjacent in the tower next to them recording. So very crazy to see that from another angle. Let's go ahead and take a look at our next video.
Там выбило стены, разрушились квартиры, а все ниже этажами у них стекла с рамами вылетели. Я вот здесь где-то сейчас видел в темноте. Вот здесь светится, видно, что оконные рамы покосились, вылетели просто от удара, от взрыва. А там вообще разрушено все к чертовой бабушке.
Okay, so it looks like we got some ground footage here. Somebody standing down here with all the fire department teams heading up there to rescue somebody. He's showing all these windows being blown out on this same tower as it was struck by that Ukrainian drone. And as we can see, massive fire here breaking out inside of the apartments here of this high-rise multi-story building. So very crazy to see that. I think we've got one more video to take a look at, so let's see this next one. Okay, this one doesn't really have any sound, but we can see what appears to be a drone being taken down in the skies, most likely by Russian air defense teams. So there you go. There's some footage coming out from there as well. So let's move to our next update now. We've got another video coming out from Vicegrad 24. 15 million Russians living in Moscow found out last night that Putin's air defense systems can't protect their city. Not good for Putin PR-wise. Okay, so we got a 3-second video of what's going to show a drone smashing into a building once again. Take a look. Okay, so just a quick video. We can see a high-rise building being struck by a drone. Also, I don't know if this is the same one. This one looks a little bit different, and we can see this appears to be a longer building, so I think this is a different high-rise that was struck. Looks like it got hit from the side, and a massive blaze there as this drone crashes into this building. Pretty crazy to see that. All right, guys, lots of videos coming out from Moscow. Here's another one from Bliskovka. A drone hit a high-rise building in Ramenskoye, Moscow region. A fire broke out at the scene, according to the mayor of Moscow. 9 drones flying towards the city have already been shot down. Drones were shot down in Lyubertsy, Ramenskoye, near Podolsk, and in Domodedovo. Okay, so again, multiple cities coming under attack. This looks like that same building, and we're going to have another video showing it from another angle as it was hit. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so definitely a lot of videos coming out showing this same apartment building on fire. Just imagine being this person nearby thinking, wow, that could have been me. I could have been inside that apartment just, what, literally maybe 100 yards away from where he's probably staying at. And definitely very scary to see that, okay? So obviously a very big attack inside of Moscow just last night. So we've got another report here now of an airport coming under attack from Igor Sushko. Russia, the airport in Moscow attacked by Ukrainian drones turned out to be the Zhukovsky airport 23 miles southeast of the Kremlin. So we've got a 53-second video showing some smoke here at this airport, the Zhukovsky airport, not too far away in Moscow. So take a look.
Вот, короче, на аэропорт Жуковский. Бесплотных сбили. Вот, короче, домили.
All right, we can definitely see something major was struck here as there appears to be a lot of smoke. And when this camera zooms in, it kind of looks like that bus might be on fire, or I can't tell if it looks like it actually is a fire behind the bus. Something else, maybe it was some sort of aircraft that was struck, who knows. But from what I understand, this was an international airport being hit, so this would have been most likely civilian aircraft at this facility. But again, like I said, there is some reports of Iranian ballistic missiles being stored throughout the country, so who knows? I wouldn't think they would be at this international airport, but definitely something was struck here. So let's go ahead and move to our next update now. And we've got this report from Anakomsa, okay? So this report came out today, and this is when it's daytime in Moscow after the attack happening last night. It says it's becoming more and more ironic. There's a major fire in Moscow near Victory Park, okay? So still a fire breaking out over here. I'm not sure if this had something to do with that drone attack, but we've definitely got a major blaze here in Moscow, and I've been showing you guys so many fires inside of Moscow recently. It's absolutely crazy. Take a look. Okay, so not too much sound in this video, but we can definitely see lots of smoke over here, which appears to be something behind this building. Is it a smaller building that was struck? Maybe it was hit by a drone last night and it's still burning, who knows? But obviously the smoke is happening at the same time soon after we had this major drone attack early this morning inside of Moscow. So pretty crazy, guys. I mean, just nothing but fires happening inside of Russia recently, especially in Moscow. So also, Igor Sushko reports Russia pipeline exploded at the Garshinskoye gas field in Orenburg region, 2 dead and 3 injured. Okay, so what's being reported here is apparently we've got more people being hurt and also losing their life to a gas field being destroyed, or a pipeline, excuse me. So this is in Orenburg region, okay? So this is probably, if I'm guesstimating, somewhere around 800 to 700 to 800 kilometers, I would say, deep into Russia, but on the very south portion, kind of central south of Russia, just on the border with Kazakhstan. And yeah, we had some sort of attack here as well, probably some sort of drone striking this pipeline, blowing it up, and we've been seeing Ukraine going after lots of Russian gas facilities lately. I just reported to you guys yesterday, the Belgorod region, there was a storage fuel facility that was attacked there as well. Some storage tanks were blown up, and this is probably a result of one of those drone attacks in this region as well. Okay, so let's move on now. Now I got this report from Jurgen Nodit. It says the nighttime Ukrainian drone strike targeted military unit 61991 and warehouses in a Moscow suburb near the town of Ramensk. And it says Ukrainian sources said Fateh 360 ballistic missiles recently shipped from Iran were stored there. The West just wants to impose ridiculous sanctions on Iran. Ukraine destroys the rockets. That's how it works. That's how it works. Okay, that's what he said. So obviously, like I told you guys, this report's coming out saying that Ukraine might have potentially targeted some of these storage facilities for these new ballistic missiles coming from Iran. Here's a picture of some of those missiles, or at least some missiles from Iran. But yeah, the FAT 360, we've been talking a lot about this, a short-range ballistic missile similar to the HIMARS. And supposedly, according to Western media, they're saying that that Russia has these now, okay, that Iran transferred these over. And obviously, the U.S. is not happy about this. They were, in the beginning, they were saying they would conduct a swift and severe response against Iran. But so far, all we're really seeing is sanctions. But I'm going to talk to you guys about long-range strikes now, that this looks like it's going to be the next move coming from the West. So we'll discuss that as we move on here. So I've got a quick report coming out from the Zaporizhzhia region as well from NOAA reports. Russian channels report heavy strikes in both Tokmak, and Mykolaiv occupied Zaporizhzhia region. So apparently what I'm hearing here is major strikes inside the Zaporizhzhia region, and the Ukrainians have been definitely picking up their attacks and also launching counterattacks in the eastern side of Ukraine. This is more like the southeast side, closer to the south. But what we're hearing is major attacks happening inside of here as well. Probably ATACMS or HIMARS hitting these areas. So big report coming out from NOAA reports there. Also, from next, the identity of the Russian war criminal who commanded the strike on the Okhmatdit, I think is how it's pronounced, Children's Hospital in Kiev has been revealed. This is the former commander of long-range aviation of the Russian Federation and now commander of the Russian Air Force, Sergei Kobylash. He was promoted after the strike on the hospital. This was reported by the Prosecutor General of Ukraine, Kostin. Lieutenant General Sergei Kobylash is a native of Odessa and one of the most inhumane war criminals of the Russian Federation. In particular, he bears full responsibility for the massive shelling of Ukrainian cities, strikes on civilian facilities, and deaths of many civilians. Kobylash is also involved in the barbaric bombing of Mariupol. Earlier, as Nexta reported, the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Kobylash for crimes against humanity. So this is a picture of him right here shaking hands with Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea. And yeah, apparently he has connections to the attack on Okhmatdit Children's Hospital in Kiev that happened at least a month or two ago, right? That was obviously a horrible, barbaric attack with lots of missiles flying into Kiev, striking the Okhmatdit Children's Hospital. We had injuries and some people losing their life there at that facility. This was a children's facility of kids that are basically suffering from lots of diseases, cancer, let's say, for example. So obviously the West was not happy with that, especially Ukraine striking that facility. So also from Nexta again, breaking, the United Kingdom has imposed sanctions against the Russian Air Force. The sanctions list also include the 924 State Center for Unmanned Aviation, several people from among the Russian Armed Forces aviation commanders. In addition, the UK authorities imposed restrictions against 5 maritime vessels. Okay, so it looks like Russia's Air Force having sanctions being placed on them as well. But generally, what we've seen is a lot of these restrictions or these sanctions don't really appear to do too much. If anything, it probably does more damage against the West. But I'm sure in some ways it is making it difficult for Russia to repair their aircraft. We know that even their Navy, they're having troubles getting replacement parts due to a lot of sanctions. So I'm sure in some ways it definitely is making it difficult for Russia to maintain their fleets. So in some ways it is doing some damage. But I just wanted to report that to you guys coming out from the United Kingdom. Also, we have this report from Anton Gerashenko. Negotiations with Ukraine will take place only when the AFU leaves Russia's Kursk region, says Sergei Shoigu. He is the former defense minister. Now he is the secretary for the Security Council in the Kremlin. It says, how about Russia leaves Ukraine, Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhia regions? So this is a 1-minute video of Sergei Shoigu basically saying that Russia's not going to negotiate with Ukraine until they leave the Kursk region. So I wanted to show you this real quick. Take a look.
Очень существенный момент – это Курск. Это Курск, и здесь мы с террористами каких-либо переговоров не вели, не ведем и вести не будем. а именно таковыми они являются. Потому что стремление осуществить ядерный террор в отношении Курской атомной станции – это не что иное, как такой верхний уровень терроризма, я бы сказал. То есть желание, стремление было двигаться туда и взять Курскую атомную станцию. Это, к счастью, не удалось. И до тех пор, пока мы не выкинем их с нашей территории, мы, естественно, о никаких переговорах с ними речи вести не будем. Очень существенно.
Okay, so we could definitely tell here from Sergei Shoigu coming out and saying they will not negotiate with Ukraine until Ukraine leaves the Kursk region. And if you notice, he calls them terrorists because they invaded Russia. But many people would probably agree and say that it's very hypocritical to say that as Russia invaded Ukraine, right? So I thought it's just very interesting the way we hear, members from the Kremlin come out like Sergei Shoigu saying things like this, and obviously calling Ukraine terrorists when technically Russia did the same exact thing, right? So the reason why I wanted to show you guys this is mainly because they've been coming out a lot lately saying they're not going to negotiate with Ukraine, and it definitely makes you wonder, okay, well, how are they going to end this war if they're not going to negotiate? So what are we going to see? Are we just going to constantly see escalation and things get worse? I mean, we're already seeing that right now, but if Ukraine is planning to put together a peace summit in November and try to negotiate with Russia, how are they going to do that if Russia's not willing to negotiate because of the Kursk offensive? Okay, so definitely some interesting information coming out from there. Also, we're going to talk about Antony Blinken now and these long-range strikes, okay? But first, we're going to talk about Iran. Jay and Kiev reports Iran just helped Russia prepare to murder maybe thousands more Ukrainians, so the U.S. is going to sanction an Iranian airline and maybe revoke someone's shopping visa. So this is Antony Blinken recently speaking in the last 24 hours, and him basically stating they're going to sanction Iran for the ballistic missiles going to Russia. So take a look at this.
There will be significant economic consequences for Tehran's actions. The United States will be announcing further sanctions on Iran later today, including additional measures on Iran Air. We expect allies and partners will be announcing their own new measures on Iran as well. Iran's new president and foreign minister have repeatedly said that they want to restore engagement with Europe. They want to receive sanctions relief. Destabilizing actions like these will achieve exactly the opposite. As David mentioned, we also discussed efforts by Russia to interfere in will be significant economic.
Okay, so what we hear from U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken coming out and saying they're going to impose sanctions on Iran for transferring those ballistic missiles to Russia. So that appears to be the beginning of it. Now I've got another report here also from Bliskovka. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and British Foreign Minister Lemmy will visit Kiev this week. Blinken added that Biden plans to discuss with the British Prime Minister the permission of the armed forces of Ukraine to strike Russia with long-range weapons. Okay, and I'm not joking about this. There's tons of reports coming out all over X talking about this, and we've got a quick video here. It's 54 seconds of Antony Blinken and the Foreign Minister Lemmy talking about, obviously supporting Ukraine. Now, he doesn't mention exactly this in this report, but from what is being reported all over X, Antony Blinken did apparently state that here in this speech. So go ahead and take a look at what he has to say in this video.
Our interests, our values, priorities that will be at the heart of the discussions that our teams are having, but also that Prime Minister Starmer and President Biden will have later this week in Washington. Those priorities, of course, include our resolute support for Ukraine faced with the ongoing Russian aggression. The United States, United Kingdom, are leaders in providing security assistance to Ukraine, and together, from day one, continuing to this day, we stand strongly with our Ukrainian partners. As David said, we'll be traveling together to Kyiv this week, and I think it's a critical moment for Ukraine. In the midst of what is an intense fall fighting season, with Russia continuing to escalate its aggression against civilians, against critical infrastructure, and of course against Ukrainian forces. Our interests, our values.
Okay, so what this speech tells me is that Starmer, the Prime Minister from The UK is going to be traveling to Washington this week to meet with President Biden. They will probably both give approval for British Storm Shadow missiles and possibly even ATACMS, is what I'm thinking. And then once they give approval, they will let U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken know. And while he's in Kyiv, he will probably announce there that Ukraine can start doing this. Now, we don't know for sure if that's going to be the case. I mean, that is what's being reported, as I even pulled this up here for you too, showing that it looks to me like this is going to happen, okay? And this report says from Noel Reports, House Foreign Affairs Chairman Michael McCall stated that U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken during a recent conversation indicated he would be traveling with his UK counterpart to Kyiv to inform Ukrainian officials that they will be allowed to strike Russia with the ATACMS missiles, according to Capitol Hill reporter Julie Grace B. Okay, so multiple reports. Like I said, I've probably seen at least 4 or 5 of these already talking about this, so it's highly likely we are going to see Ukraine given the ability to strike inside of Russia using at least bare minimum ATACMS, but I'm thinking maybe even British Storm Shadow missiles, but it could go either way. It could start with one system first. It could be the Storm Shadow first. It could be ATACMS, or it could be both. Who knows? But I'm going to wait to see what the official confirmation will be this week. But there is definitely lots of talk about this right now. And we've been discussing this for months now, okay? And it looks like Ukraine could be given the ability very soon. And it all was triggered due to these Iranian missiles going to Russia. Okay, also from Bricks News, just in, NATO concerned about Russian nuclear attack in space that would send out gigantic waves of electromagnetic pulses, so EMP. Okay, so we talked about this a long time ago, that Russia was deploying some sort of space weapon or something like that. NATO was coming out and saying this. Many Western partners were talking about this. They were worried that Russia had deployed some sort of nuclear space weapon that could be detonated and destroy U.S. satellites, knock out communications for the U.S. if a war were to begin. And now they're starting to talk about this again, okay? Look at where we are getting at right now, guys. I mean, what it appears to me is a major red line is long-range strikes inside of Russia. That's what it appears to me. Now, I could be completely wrong about that. Maybe there is no red line. But out of all the reporting that I've done, and out of all the red lines that have been reported and then been crossed, this appears to be one of the major red lines for Russia, is if U.S. weapons or British weapons, doesn't matter, long-range missiles start flying into Russia, and then obviously Moscow could be targeted, lots of major cities in Russia. We also talked about the fact that Russia was updating their nuclear doctrine to fit the needs for some of these strikes that could be coming very soon, to protect themselves with these nuclear weapons and have to use them if need be. So, I mean, it definitely looks like something big is going to happen here very soon. I've been telling you guys this. Even Viktor Orban, the Hungarian prime minister, came out and said that there was going to be a brutal war happening the war was going to become more brutal, over the next few months. And think about this. We're just 2 months away from the elections in the United States. I have a big feeling things are going to get very nasty over here over the next couple months, and it's going to continue to escalate as we get closer to the elections in November, and then also the potential, what I want to call peace summit, according to Volodymyr Zelensky in Ukraine. Okay, and then talking about this peace summit as well, says here from Max24, Zelensky wants to end the war this fall. That was reported from EFE. The president is working on a plan that provides for the end of the war. Due to strong international pressure on Russia, Zelensky emphasizes that the main goal of the plan is to force Russia to stop aggression. The operation in Kursk is considered a key success factor. Ukraine is also preparing for the second peace summit, hoping for greater support from the world. Okay, so like I said, peace summit coming up, most likely in November. That's what's being planned, at least. And then, obviously, the Kursk operation is designed to put pressure on Vladimir Putin, have an open war happening inside of his country. Then we've got these drones smashing into Moscow. Then we've got potentially ATACMS, British Storm Shadow missiles flying into Russian territory soon. And then also their own ballistic missiles. Their cruise missiles that they've been developing as well. And the Palinitsia drone. I mean, it's just, there's lots of equipment that could potentially be flying into Russia soon. And like I said, I firmly believe that it is going to be a major red line, and hopefully it doesn't lead to some sort of nuclear attack on a nation or maybe even Ukraine. I really hope that doesn't happen. And I know it sounds crazy, but we never know what is going to be the outcome of here and what Vladimir Putin will choose to do to respond to these attacks when they start happening, because it looks like it's going to happen very soon. So also, next report from Nexta. Ukraine can use Dutch weapons on the territory of the Russian Federation, Dutch Defense Minister Ruben Brekel-Mancha said. He specified that the authorization to strike Russia also applies to F-16 fighter jets. If Ukraine is attacked from the border areas or from Russian airfields, it can aim at military targets. The same applies to enemy missiles. They can also be intercepted by our weapons over Russia. So obviously, Netherlands supplied some F-16s to Ukraine. They're coming out and saying a lot lately that they're okay with this. So, I mean, we see lots of countries being perfectly okay with Ukraine launching long-range strikes into Russia, and it just really is a matter of Britain and the United States, okay? If they come and back this thing, it's going to be game on, and we're going to see lots of attacks inside of Russia, and I really believe this is where this is coming. You know, whether Iran actually sent these ballistic missiles over to Russia or not, we don't really know yet until they're starting to be used, and then we get confirmation that they are being shot into Ukraine. This could just be a trigger being used to allow Ukraine to strike inside of Russia, maybe even before these missiles are even being launched, or who knows, maybe they're not even there. We don't even know because no one's there, okay? None of us are there. We're just reporting what's being told here on the ground. But obviously, like I said, this war is shaping up to be something very big here in the coming months, maybe even in the coming weeks. It could get very nasty. So also, 2 more reports to share with you. Breaking news from World Affairs. The USA officials report Turkey will not join BRICS. Turkey is our reliable member. We are trying to communicate with Turkey in this matter. Now, I wanted to show you this because this is in regards to NATO, right? Because Turkey is a NATO member. There's been lots of reports lately coming out from Turkey's President Erdogan. He came out saying some crazy things lately, like saying that he was calling for Islamic countries to come together and form a coalition against Israel, fight back against Israel, and obviously Turkey's a NATO member, okay? And many of these countries that support Israel are NATO members. So obviously it's the odd one of the bunch, right? And then he's also coming out recently saying that Turkey's going to join BRICS. Okay, so which side is Turkey standing for? Is he standing for the West and with NATO, or is he standing with the East, with Russia and Russia and Iran and China and them? Right, so I wanted to share this with you because there's been some drama going around with Turkey lately, and it's definitely shaking up NATO a little bit, and it seems like the U.S. is a little concerned with Turkey lately with some of the statements that's been coming out from the President Erdogan, okay? So also one last thing to share with you from Nexta. The Russian Navy has started the Ocean 2024 exercise. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, the exercise will take place in the Pacific and Arctic Oceans, the Mediterranean, Caspian, and Baltic Seas, and will end on September 16th. More than 400 ships, submarines, and vessels, over 120 warplanes and helicopters, about 7,000 pieces of equipment and weapons, as well as more than 90,000 servicemen will take part in the maneuvers. So this is just a little video that came out from Russia showing some of their naval equipment that they have. From what I'm hearing, they're going to be launching some very major military exercises, primarily with their Navy right now. We've been seeing lots of countries doing this. You know, the U.S. was literally just doing this recently too, with I think with Japan or South Korea over in the Pacific Ocean. So we're definitely seeing lots of military activity, okay? And it's looking more and more likely that the world is just getting ready to go to war. And I know that, countries, they do these exercises frequently, so it is common. But it's interesting the timing right now with the way that things are looking, and this war in Ukraine is just getting out of control. So, I mean, I hope I showed you guys enough information today to let you know that this war is about to spiral out of control here very soon. And it's definitely going to get brutal. I have to agree with Viktor Orban. I know I bring that up a lot, but he's definitely right. I mean, that's exactly what has happened in this war. It has gotten more and more brutal as time has gone on. And it's looking, when we look into the future on some of these events that are about to happen very soon, it's looking more likely that it's definitely going to become more brutal for sure. So, I mean, let me know what you think down below, but that's going to be it for today's update. I appreciate you hanging out here with me today. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell, that way YouTube can notify you. And with that, I hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.